Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about what we do at CISA with regard to ransomware specifically. So my background is originally in software development, and I did that for a while, and then I moved into more security focus, cybersecurity focus with a small information security certifications firm, at which I was a security engineer and then eventually moved into the role of the chief operating officer there. I also ran my own business for a couple of years along the same lines of assisting with cybersecurity certifications such as Common Criteria and FIPS 140-2. And then I joined CISA just before CISA, the NPPD as it used to be known, became a standalone agency within the Department of Homeland Security, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. And at CISA, I am the communications manager within the cybersecurity division. So my team is responsible for external publications and stakeholder messaging with regard to cybersecurity operational activities, such as things like ransomware and some of the other things you may have heard about in the news recently. So we push out publications to our CISA.gov website and out to our uscert.gov website. And we also push things out, more sensitive things, through other channels. So currently we are in the midst of a ransomware awareness campaign where we are pushing out information about CISA's resources and services that we provide for our stakeholders. So we do this through social media, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes, mostly through social media and engagements such as this, where we talk about, excuse me, specifically what we can do here at CISA to assist people in the state and local governments or even private industry, as well as some of our international partners, with helping to prevent, respond, and sort of clean up after ransomware attacks. So happy to talk a little bit more about that via my presentation. So again, thank you for having me today. We're really, really excited to work with you and our other CISA colleagues to help promote our very first ever ransomware campaign. And I explained briefly that I am in the cybersecurity division's operational collaboration subdivision, and specifically, we are responsible for outward external messaging regarding cybersecurity issues that we help to investigate and help to resolve. So we launched this awareness campaign informally last fall, sort of a soft launch, but then we officially kicked it off on January 21st with our acting director's announcement at the Conference of Mayors winter meeting. So who is CISA? We like to call ourselves the nation's risk advisors, and that means that we provide information sharing, best practices through guidance and assessments, and response assistance. In other words, we work with you to mitigate the incidents and determine what happened. But one thing we are not is a regulator or law enforcement. So everything we do at CISA is voluntary. Our mission is carried out via strong partnerships with state, local, tribal, and territorial governments, with the private sector, particularly critical infrastructure companies, with other federal agencies, and also some of our international partners. Our strategic vision within my area is to lead and integrate cyber defense operations across those federal, state, local, tribal, and territorial entities, international and industry partners, to rapidly detect, protect, and respond to cyber risks that target critical infrastructure. So to help users remember our ransomware tips, We are providing and promoting best practices through some concise, engaging messages and specific tips for organizations or individuals to follow. We developed 9 key messages with specific ways you can protect your data from ransomware. We began, as I said, on January 21st with Keep Calm and Patch On, where we discussed the reasons and the importance of patching your systems and updating your systems to help prevent cyber threat actors from getting into your systems and potentially exfiltrating your data or even installing ransomware on your system in order to get money out of you for the return to you of your data and systems. So every 2 weeks, we put out a new message, and these messages are here on the screen. We are currently working on the "your data will be fine if it's stored offline" messaging. And then we will continue to move through these messages every couple of weeks until the end of May, at which point we are hopefully planning to release information about our ransomware strategic plan. As far as our resources on ransomware, we have recently stood up a new ransomware webpage on CISA.gov, and you can see the URL there, CISA.gov/ransomware. And this has the necessary resources to help you protect, detect, respond, and recover from a ransomware attack. So I encourage you to familiarize yourselves with this webpage and if possible, promote it and its resources out to your own stakeholders and other partners. The key resource we've been requested to highlight, though, is our CISA and MS-ISAC joint ransomware guide. We also have developed a toolkit and fact sheet and provide graphics that I just showed you, actually, the messaging graphics, in case you want to use that in your own messaging with your stakeholders. On CISA.gov ransomware webpage, we have broken that into various sections, the first of which is alerts and statements. So the alerts that you'll find here are geared toward system administrators and other technical staff in order to bolster their organization's security posture. All of CISA's alerts, statements, and joint advisories from our uscert.gov website that relate to ransomware are on this webpage as a reference. Then we also provide some guides and services, and this is the link where you'll find our ransomware guide that I just mentioned. The ransomware guide is a customer-centered one-stop resource with best practices and ways to prevent, protect, or to respond to a ransomware attack. We also have links to our CISA's cyber hygiene services, which has several scanning and testing services to help organizations assess, identify, and reduce their exposure to threats. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in the coming few slides. We also have fact sheets and infographics. So this section includes some easy to use, straightforward information to help organizations and individuals better understand the threats from and the consequences of a ransomware attack. This is where you'll find our CISA insights on ransomware attacks. There's a poster that you can hang in your workplace. There's a joint technical fact sheet from our NCI JTF law enforcement partners on ransomware, what it is and what to do about it. And finally, we have a US CERT security tip on protecting against ransomware. We also provide links to some trainings and webinars, which include our CDM, Diagnostics and Mitigation Training. There's an incident response training series with a webinar recording. We have CISA's webinar on combating ransomware. And finally, we have a recording from last fall's CISA Cyber Summit 2020 ransomware panel session. As I mentioned previously, we do have a ransomware toolkit, campaign toolkit, and you'll find those resources out here as well to help you push out some of the same messaging. And we have also concentrated a little bit heavily on our K through 12 education sector, and we have some specific tools and resources out there for K through 12 administrators, staff, teachers, and students and their families. A little more about our ransomware guide. Back on September 30th, 2020, CISA and the MS ISAC released a joint ransomware guide. And this is, again, will help you to prevent, protect, and respond to a ransomware attack. CISA and MS ISAC are distributing this guide to inform and enhance network defense and to reduce exposure to a ransomware attack. The guide is broken into two parts. Part one is ransomware prevention best practices, where we provide information about how to harden and configure your systems to just prevent ransomware from happening to begin with. But part two, because we are realistic, is the ransomware response checklist, so that if in fact you are a victim of a ransomware attack, we provide you with some steps to follow in order to help eradicate the threat from your system and who to call for assistance. So this is one of the resources we're promoting throughout our ransomware campaign, since it is available to the public and anyone can access this very useful guide. So I will provide a little bit more information on zero trust at this point. So the zero trust strategy model is being adopted by federal agencies and private sector industries in the wake of the recent SolarWinds attack, and also the more recent Microsoft Exchange vulnerabilities. The White House has directed that all federal agencies adopt a zero trust strategy model. So zero trust isn't a new strategy, and it's been already deployed in many federal agencies and within private industry, but to date, not really on the level that's required to combat the growing sophistication of malicious actors. On March 18th, our acting CISA director, Brandon Wales, testified alongside Chris DeRusha of the Federal Chief Information Security Officer at Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee about the importance of adopting a zero trust strategy throughout federal government environment at the direction of the White House. So another useful guide that you could take a look at would be NSA's Embracing a Zero Trust Security Model document. And you can find that on our US CERT site, as well as I believe the NSA has posted it as well. So a little bit of information that document provides is one of the thoughts here, goals here, is that you should adopt a zero trust mindset. So what that means is you would need to do this to adequately address the modern dynamic threat environment, which would require coordinated and aggressive system monitoring, system management, and defensive operational capabilities. So zero trust assumes that all requests for critical resources and all network traffic might be malicious. It also assumes that all devices and infrastructure may already be compromised. And it accepts that all access approvals to critical resources incur some risk, and you need to be prepared to perform rapid damage assessment, control, and recovery operations. So some embracing zero trust guiding principles, in this case, a zero trust solution really requires some capabilities such as never trust and always verify. So in other words, treat every user, device, application, workload, and data flow as untrusted. Your system should always authenticate and explicitly authorize each access to the least privilege required using dynamic security policies. Should always assume a breach. So the system should consciously operate and defend resources with the assumption that an adversary already has a presence within your environment. System should deny by default and also heavily scrutinize all users, devices, data flows, and requests for access. This would include logging and then inspecting and continuously monitoring all your configuration changes, resource accesses, and network traffic for suspicious activity. And also you need to verify explicitly. So all access to all resources should be conducted in a consistent and secure manner using multiple attributes, both dynamic and static, to derive some confidence levels for contextual access decisions to resources. So leveraging your zero trust design concepts. So things to think about when you're designing a zero trust solution would be that you need to define your mission outcomes. So you would derive the zero trust architecture from organization-specific mission requirements that identify your critical data, assets, applications, and services, or DAAS. You need to architect your system from the inside out. So first, you would focus on protecting your critical DAAS. And then secondly, you would secure all paths to those services. You should also determine who and what needs access to your DAAS to create access control policies. So you would create security policies and apply them consistently across all environments, your LAN, your WAN, endpoint, perimeter, mobile, all of that. And you should also inspect and log all traffic before acting. So you should establish full visibility of all activity across all layers from endpoints and the network to enable analytics that can detect any suspicious activity. So zero trust is helpful in preventing ransomware and limiting the damage if a malicious actor gains access to a victim's networks. So please note that a successful zero trust model involves both a comprehensive external and internal security model and a change of mindset by those who use it. Zero trust prevents the malware and the threat actor from moving laterally through the victim's network and encrypting or exfiltrating data on other systems besides the specific endpoint that was initially compromised. So it may not help with the initial victimized system, but it will limit the damage done a great deal once the actor is in your system. So many ransomware attacks are only noticeable when the attack is underway and can't be stopped unless there's a comprehensive and dynamic zero trust strategy in place. Some internal strategies for network victims really center around early and dynamic detection protocols that show when large files are being exfiltrated and are being accessed at odd hours, especially at nights or on weekends. Once any suspicious activity is detected, network sectors are shut down along with shadow automated backups. If these procedures aren't automated and dynamic, it will be very difficult, if not impossible, to stop a ransomware attack. Also, attackers are not discriminatory about what they steal. They will steal everything. So pull that plug. So if you'd like more information about these zero trust resources, you can go to our US CERT site under this rather lengthy URL, but it's called NSA Releases Guidance Zero Trust Security Model. That is our notification of it. And then you can also find the actual document itself here at media.defense.gov. So a big question we always get is, who should we call? CISA provides no-cost resources that include policy-oriented or technical assessments, cyber exercises, cybersecurity advisors, and CISA information sharing. You should also reach out to the FBI or the US Secret Service so they can try to identify the threat actor and bring them to justice. As I mentioned, we are not law enforcement. We are there to help you prevent and respond to attacks like these. We've provided some points of contact here for you to reach out to, as well as a link to our ransomware page on CISA.gov. So I welcome you to contact us if you'd like to request any of our ransomware campaign material or would be interested in participating in events or sharing information on ransomware. And thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate your continued support protecting critical assets out in our nation. Thank you.